A regular 1985 D Washington quarter, the kind you've probably handled thousands of times, has turned the coin world upside down. And what makes it so unbelievable is that this life-changing coin doesn't look rare at first glance. It hides its secret in plain sight. It began with a discovery so strange that even veteran collectors thought it was fake. A man from Colorado reportedly found a worn 1985 D quarter in a box of old change. Nothing special, just another coin minted in Denver. But when he noticed a peculiar shine under the "In God We Trust" and an oddly thick rim, curiosity got the better of him. He sent it off for grading, and what came back would stun everyone. This was no ordinary quarter. It had a double die obverse and a rare transitional planchet error, an ultra-rare combination that shouldn't exist. The coin had been struck on a different metal planchet intended for testing, possibly even a leftover experimental composition. And that error alone skyrocketed its value from 25 cents to well over $1 million. But that's not all. What makes this story even more incredible is how the coin world nearly missed it. For decades, the 1985 D quarter wasn't even on most collectors' radar. It was the quiet middle child of the 1980s, minted in huge numbers, often overlooked, never given much thought. But that one coin changed everything. When photos of the discovery hit coin forums, experts couldn't believe it. Dealers zoomed in, comparing die marks, looking for minting patterns that could confirm the authenticity. And when the grading companies confirmed it was real, the bidding wars began. The final auction price? Just over $1.3 million. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Suddenly, collectors everywhere started rechecking their 1985 quarters. Boxes of old change were dug out of closets, and coin rolls disappeared from banks almost overnight. Dealers reported customers coming in with handfuls of quarters, asking if they might have the next jackpot coin. And here's where it gets even crazier. Experts believe there could be more out there. You see, the Denver Mint produced over 500 million quarters that year. If one slipped through with such a rare error, chances are others might have as well. The question is, where are they now? Maybe one sits in a coffee can in someone's garage. Maybe one's rattling around in your car's cup holder right now. Or maybe it's sitting in your pocket, waiting to change your life. The first clue is the mint mark. The D for Denver is located just to the right of Washington's ponytail. On the valuable variety, that D can appear slightly doubled, a faint shadow, almost like the letter's been pressed twice. It's subtle, but clear under magnification. This doubling is a key sign that the die struck the coin slightly off-center during minting. The second clue lies in the rim. Most quarters from 1985 have a clean, uniform edge. But on the rare error coin, the rim is unusually thick and uneven, a sign of a planchet problem. This happens when a blank metal disc mint for one denomination accidentally gets used for another. The color and weight. Regular 1985 quarters weigh about 5.67 grams and have a copper-nickel outer layer with a copper core. The valuable error coin, however, weighs slightly less, closer to 5.4 grams, and the color has a faintly silvery hue that doesn't quite match the standard alloy. It's believed some of these coins were struck on leftover experimental blanks from earlier minting tests. Collectors who've handled one say the feel is different, almost smoother, slightly denser, like a coin that doesn't quite belong to its time. But what makes this story even more unbelievable is how close this coin came to being forgotten. The man who found it admitted he nearly threw it away after cleaning out his old coin jar. He said, "It just looked different, something about it didn't feel right. I'm glad I trusted that instinct." That instinct earned him over $1 million. And that's the beauty of coin collecting. Sometimes it's not about luck, it's about noticing what others overlook. But there's one more twist. A second 1985 D quarter with similar features reportedly surfaced in 2021, but this time, the coin was in poor condition. Even so, it sold privately for nearly $350,000. That confirmed what many experts had suspected. This wasn't just a one-off mistake. There could be a tiny batch of misstruck 1985 D quarters out there, each potentially worth hundreds of thousands, or even up to $1 million depending on condition. Imagine the excitement of finding one. You're going through your change, maybe out of boredom, maybe just looking for silver edges, and then you spot it. The D looks odd. The color's off. The rim's thicker than usual. You weigh it, and it's just a bit lighter. Could it be? That's the thrill that keeps collectors hunting year after year, but most people miss it. They don't check their coins. They assume every quarter is the same. And that's why these hidden treasures keep surfacing decades later. In junk drawers, in coin rolls, in forgotten boxes from the 80s. Now, if you're wondering how to check yours, here's what to do. Start by separating your 1985 quarters and look for the D mint mark. Under good lighting, tilt the coin slightly. If you see any doubling on the mint mark or on Washington's eye, nose, or the motto, "In God We Trust," that's a sign of a potential error. Next, examine the edge. A thicker or uneven rim could indicate a misaligned die strike or planchet issue. Finally, weigh it with a digital scale. If it's between 5.3 and 5.4 grams, and you notice a slightly different tone, brighter or more silvery, that's worth a professional evaluation. Send it to a grading company like PCGS or NGC for authentication. You might just be sitting on a small fortune, and remember, condition matters. Even a rare error coin needs to be preserved properly. Avoid cleaning it. Store it in a protective holder, handle it by the edges, and never polish it. One scratch could mean the difference between a few $100s and $1 million. Collectors were shocked when the 1985 D quarter broke auction records. Dealers rushed to find more examples, and the coin world learned an unforgettable lesson. Sometimes, the most valuable treasures are hiding in the most ordinary places. Tonight, when you empty your pockets or roll up your change, take a closer look at those quarters. Don't just see spare change, see possibilities. Because one coin like this turned an ordinary man into a millionaire overnight. That's exactly what happened with one rare 2001 D North Dakota quarter. A coin that almost went unnoticed until a single shocking detail turned it into one of the most valuable modern treasures in American coin history. Now, before you rush to check your change jar, listen closely, because this is one of those stories that coin collectors talk about in whispers. A story of a small mistake at the Denver Mint that created one of the rarest quarters ever struck. A coin that could be sitting in your pocket right now. It all began back in 2001, when the U.S. Mint released the North Dakota quarter as part of the 50 State Quarters program, one of the most popular coin series ever made. Millions of these coins rolled off the presses that year. Most were ordinary, but somewhere among those shiny stacks, a few quarters came out wrong. Not obviously wrong, not bent, not double-struck, but subtly, eerily different. At first, no one noticed. Collectors were busy chasing state quarters, building sets, trading coins at flea markets, and pulling change from circulation. Then, one day, a collector in Colorado stumbled upon a North Dakota quarter that looked off. The color wasn't quite right. The details seemed too bold, too deep. And the mint mark, that tiny letter D on the right side, didn't look like it belonged there. He almost tossed it back into circulation. Almost. But something made him stop. He felt the weight, the texture, the edges. It didn't feel like a normal clad quarter. He took it to a local dealer who looked at it once, twice, then went pale. What they discovered would shake the coin world. That 2001 D North Dakota quarter had been struck on a silver planchet, the kind used for older quarters before 1965. Somehow, a blank silver coin slipped into the presses meant for modern clad quarters. A minting error so rare that only a handful have ever been confirmed. And when it went to auction, it didn't just make headlines. It sold for over $1.4 million. Once the story hit the collectors' community, everyone went crazy. People began emptying drawers, checking car cup holders, tearing through old coin rolls from the bank. Dealers were flooded with questions. Only a few more surfaced, each verified through weight testing, metal analysis, and detailed examination under magnification. These coins were minted on the wrong metal, giving them a distinct, brighter shine and a slightly heavier feel. About 6.25 grams instead of the standard 5.67. A double die obverse, where the word liberty and parts of "In God We Trust" showed slight doubling under magnification. These were not as dramatic, but still worth thousands, sometimes tens of thousands, depending on condition and clarity. Still, it's the silver planchet error that commands jaw-dropping figures. And the reason it's so hard to find is simple. The U.S. Mint was under massive pressure in the early 2000s to meet demand for the state quarters program. Billions of coins were being produced, and errors slipped through at a rate the Mint didn't anticipate. One wrong blank, even one, could end up in circulation unnoticed. $1 million coin sitting in a soda machine, a car wash, or someone's laundry change. It sounds impossible, but it's happened before. In one legendary case, a man in Arizona used a coin-counting machine at a grocery store and noticed one quarter looked shinier than the rest. He almost ignored it, but the tone was too silvery. He pulled it back, waited at home, and discovered it was one of the 2001 North Dakota Silver Planchet quarters. That coin later appraised for nearly $1.2 million. But what's truly wild is that many people still have no idea these exist. They look so normal that they can pass right through your hands without you realizing it. First, check the mint mark. It must be a D, standing for the Denver Mint. Philadelphia quarters from 2001 are valuable in their own right, but this particular error is exclusive to Denver. Next, look at the color and luster. Regular quarters from 2001 have a more grayish tone with a faint copper edge when you look from the side. But the rare ones struck on silver planchets? They shine brighter, almost white, and the edge will not show the usual copper sandwich layer. That's your biggest clue. Then, check the weight. If it weighs around 6.25 grams, you're holding something incredible. Finally, inspect the lettering. The details on these quarters are often sharper because silver takes strikes differently than the standard copper-nickel clad. Letters like Liberty and North Dakota may appear crisper and more defined. The coin must be in its original unpolished state. Many people destroy their coin's value by cleaning it. Even a light polishing can turn $1 million miracle into a worthless piece of metal. So if you think you've found one, don't clean it. Don't touch the faces. Put it in a soft holder and get it authenticated by PCGS or NGC, the two major grading companies that have confirmed previous $1 million examples. And while only a few of these coins have been officially recorded, the real mystery is how many could still be out there. Some experts believe a small batch, perhaps fewer than 20, escaped into circulation unnoticed. That means one could be sitting in a forgotten change jar right now, waiting for the right eyes to notice it. Every collector's dream begins with that moment, that flicker of hope when you hold a coin and wonder, could this be the one? And for the man who found his 2001 North Dakota quarter in a handful of spare change, that moment changed his life forever. What started as an ordinary day ended with a discovery worth more than a lifetime of paychecks. Collectors call it a once-in-a-generation find. Dealers still talk about it in disbelief. But that's the beauty of coin collecting. Sometimes, the greatest treasures aren't hidden in vaults or museums. They're hidden in plain sight. The next time you're about to spend a quarter, take one last look. Check the mint mark. Look at the shine. Feel the weight. Because you never know, that ordinary-looking 2001 North Dakota quarter could be the one that turns your spare change into a life-changing discovery. One coin. One mistake. One moment of curiosity that could be worth over $1 million. But what makes this one coin so different? Why are collectors and dealers losing their minds over it? Stay with me, because what you're about to hear sounds almost too good to be true. It all started in 2015, when the U.S. Mint released the Blue Ridge Parkway quarter as part of the America the Beautiful series. Most people didn't think twice about it. It was just another shiny coin with a pretty design, the curving road, the stone tunnel, and the soft ridges of the Appalachian Mountains. But hidden among millions of ordinary quarters was a handful that carried a mysterious flaw, a minting error so rare that it turned these coins into gold mines. The first discovery came from a man in North Carolina. He'd been collecting quarters casually. Nothing serious, just a jar of coins on his dresser. One morning, he was counting them, sorting out duplicates, when something caught his eye. The rim looked off. The edge wasn't even, and under a magnifying glass, the mint mark had a strange, doubled appearance. He thought it was dirt at first, maybe damage. But when he sent it to be graded, the expert paused, looked closer, and said, "Do you realize what you have here? That single coin sold for over $60,000. And that was years ago. Today, specimens with that same error, the 2015 Blue Ridge Parkway quarter with the doubled mint mark, misaligned rim, or deep dye clash marks, are estimated to be worth up to $1.5 million. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were rushing to find more examples. Suddenly, a coin most people spent at the gas station was being hunted like buried treasure. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Reports started pouring in from all over the country, from Tennessee, Colorado, and even as far as Alaska. People were finding 2015 deep Blue Ridge quarters with strange flaws, missing letters, uneven strikes, even tunnel designs that appeared ghosted or partially erased. Some experts believe a batch of defective dies at the Denver Mint created these anomalies during a short production run before being quietly replaced. The government never announced it. There was no warning, no statement, nothing. The coins simply slipped into circulation, quietly traveling from hand to hand, from a vending machine, to a tip jar, to someone's change tray. It's almost poetic, isn't it? That a coin depicting a winding mountain road also carried a hidden, winding path to fortune. One collector compared it to striking oil in your backyard. Another said, finding one of these coins is like catching lightning in your pocket. The excitement spread fast. Social media posts, online forums, late-night conversations in collector groups. People started checking every 2015 quarter they could find, praying for that magic D. But here's where the story turns even stranger. A small batch of 2015 D quarters surfaced, showing what experts call a curved clip, a bite-shaped cut along the edge caused when the metal sheet feeding the press overlaps. Normally, such coins are worth a few $100. But in this case, with the Blue Ridge design and the Denver Mint mark, the value skyrocketed. The last known sale of a confirmed curved clip Blue Ridge DeMint era reached $800,000, and rumors say a pristine, untouched version was recently insured for over $1 million. But the true jackpot lies in the double die reverse variety. This is the one that made headlines among serious collectors. Under magnification, you can see doubling in the details of the road, the tunnel, and even the mountains. Some say it gives the coin a three-dimensional shimmer, almost as if the landscape itself is alive. Only a handful of these are known to exist, and when one appeared at auction, the bidding war was so fierce it crashed the live stream. The final hammer price? Just under $1.5 million. But what makes this story truly incredible is how easily most people miss it. You might have handled one of these coins already. Maybe you used it to buy a cup of coffee or tossed it in a parking meter. The Blue Ridge Parkway quarter doesn't scream rare. It blends in with the rest. Its secrets are microscopic, invisible unless you know exactly what to look for. And here's the shocking part. Many of these coins are still out there. Experts estimate that fewer than a dozen have been professionally graded, meaning countless others could be sitting in coin rolls, drawers, or dusty change jars, completely unnoticed. First, look for the D Mint mark. That's the Denver version. Then, under good lighting or with a magnifier, check the rim. A thick or uneven rim could signal a misaligned die strike. Next, examine the tunnel area on the reverse side. See if the arch or the road looks doubled or blurred. That's a sign of a doubled die, the $1 million variety. Finally, pay attention to the surface. A small, crescent-shaped clip or missing metal near the edge could be the curved clip error, which also carries huge value. And here's a tip most collectors overlook. Don't clean the coin. Ever. Even a gentle rub with a cloth can destroy its surface and slash its value. Keep it exactly as you found it, and if it looks suspiciously unique, get it graded by a reputable service like PCGS or NGC. That step alone can turn a few cents into a life-changing fortune. But let's step back for a second. Imagine this. You're at a grocery store, the cashier hands you change, and you notice that familiar tunnel design. You hold it up to the light, and something about it feels different. Your heart races. Could this be it? Could you be holding a $1.5 million miracle? That's the thrill that keeps collectors searching day and night. It's not just about money. It's about the mystery, the chase, the idea that a tiny piece of metal could rewrite your story. Collectors often say the 2015 D Blue Ridge quarter reminds them why they fell in love with coins in the first place. It's living history, a piece of craftsmanship, a whisper from the mint, and a symbol of chance. Every coin has a story, but this one has a legend. And if you think it's too late to find one, think again. These coins are still circulating. Every day, people unknowingly pass them along, never realizing what they're holding. It's possible that one's sitting in your car console right now, mixed with loose change.so tonight. When you get home, grab that jar of quarters. Dump them out on the table. Look closely at each one, because somewhere in that pile might be a 2015 D Blue Ridge Parkway quarter, a coin born from a mistake, carrying the weight of history, and worth up to $1.5 million. Collectors were shocked. Dealers couldn't believe it. And yet, the truth remains, a single coin, no bigger than your thumbnail, changed someone's life forever. That's right, a simple 2001 D Kentucky State Quarter, the kind you've probably handled hundreds of times, has stunned collectors across the country after one rare version sold for nearly $1.6 million. At first glance, it looks like any ordinary quarter, shiny, silver, and stamped with the proud image of Kentucky's famous horse and mansion. But behind that everyday design lies a mystery that has turned the numismatic world upside down. Because this coin, this ordinary-looking piece of change, hides an error so rare that most experts believed it couldn't exist. It all began in 2001, when the U.S. Mint in Denver was producing the Kentucky quarters as part of the new 50-state quarters program. Millions rolled off the presses, more than 370 million, to be exact. But among them was one that didn't belong. A few years later, a man in Louisville named Carl Mitchell was sorting through his change at his kitchen table. He'd just come back from buying coffee and was tossing quarters into his jar like he always did. But one coin caught his eye. The surface shimmered differently, the edge seemed thicker, and the details looked off. But something told him to hold on to it. Months later, while watching a late-night coin show, he heard the host mention a rare 2001 D Kentucky quarter with an unusual double strike error. Carl froze. He ran to his drawer, dug through his jar, and pulled that same quarter out again. And when he held it under the light, he saw it. The letters on the word Kentucky were slightly doubled. The horse's outline had a ghostly shadow. It wasn't just damage. It was a minting error, one that happened deep inside the Denver Mint, likely caused when the planchet, the blank metal disc, got jammed and struck twice by the die before being released. That's the kind of accident that can create a fortune. But here's where it gets even stranger. The coin Carl found wasn't just doubled. It had traces of another design underneath. Experts later confirmed it was part of a transitional die error, meaning that a leftover die from another quarter design was accidentally used, leaving hidden details barely visible beneath Kentucky's image. Some claimed to see faint outlines of another state's design below the mansion. Others said it was remnants from a Washington quarter die. Whatever it was, one thing was certain: it wasn't supposed to exist. When word got out, collectors were shocked. Dealers began calling it the Ghost Horse Quarter. Auctions were flooded with imitations, but only one matched the exact characteristics of Carl's find. It was authenticated by PCGS, graded MS 68, nearly flawless, and when it went up for auction, the room fell silent. Bidding started at $100,000. Within seconds, it climbed past $500,000. Then a bidding war broke out between two anonymous collectors. The final hammer price? $1.6 million. And here's the part that stunned everyone. The man who bought it later admitted he'd been hunting for this coin for years because he believed it was the last missing piece of a secret error collection that the Mint never publicly acknowledged. But what makes this Kentucky quarter so special and so valuable isn't just the error. It's the combination of things that had to go perfectly wrong. First, a misaligned die strike. Then, the use of an incorrect planchet. And finally, a pristine finish that somehow survived circulation long enough to be found. Think about it. One in hundreds of millions. A one-in-a-lifetime mistake that turned a 25-cent coin into a treasure worth more than most homes. As collectors raced to find their own Kentucky quarters, more strange variations began to appear. Some had missing letters. Others showed faint doubling on E pluribus unum. A few even appeared to have misaligned edges or broad strikes. But none came close to the perfection or mystery of Carl's coin. Dealers warned that most of what was being found were simple post-mint damages, scratches, machine doubling, or edge wear, the kind of things that look dramatic but aren't worth more than face value. Yet, the excitement kept spreading. Buried among all those ordinary coins could still be one that the Mint missed. Another 2001 D Kentucky quarter hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone with a sharp eye and a little bit of luck to uncover it. If you've got a 2001 D Kentucky quarter, here's what you need to do. First, flip it over under a bright light. Look carefully at the horse and the words "My Old Kentucky Home." On the rare $1 million version, you'll often see subtle doubling, especially around the letters K and Y. It almost looks like a shadow under the letters. Next, check the edge. The rare version has a slightly thicker rim on one side, caused by a misaligned die. It's not something you can spot instantly, but once you see it, you'll notice the coin doesn't feel perfectly even when you roll it between your fingers. Now, here's the biggest clue. Look for faint, almost ghost-like lines beneath the main design. That's what experts call understrike traces left over from another die that was accidentally used. It's barely visible to the naked eye, but under magnification, it's unmistakable. The mint mark D. On the rare Kentucky quarter, the D appears slightly shifted, almost touching the outline of the horse's tail. On normal ones, it sits cleanly beneath the date. That tiny misplacement is what separated a $1 million coin from a 25-cent piece. But be careful, a lot of counterfeits float around. Many people try to artificially damage coins to mimic errors, but graders can spot that instantly. The genuine coin's texture, luster, and weight are perfectly balanced. It's the precision of imperfection that makes it priceless. Dealers today are still hunting for another one. Some even offer five-figure rewards for ungraded Kentucky quarters, showing doubling or planchet irregularities. That's how powerful the legend of this coin has become. It proves something extraordinary. Sometimes, life-changing treasures don't come in gold or diamonds. Sometimes, they're hiding in your pocket change, waiting for the right person to notice. Imagine checking your spare change tomorrow morning and realizing you're holding a coin that could rewrite your life. One coin that could pay off your home, your debts, your dreams. This is the story of the 2004 P Texas quarter dollar, a coin that has stunned experts, baffled collectors, and turned ordinary Americans into accidental millionaires that IT started like any other day. A man in Houston was emptying his truck's cup holder after a long day of work. Greasy fast food receipts, soda caps, and a handful of coins. He almost tossed the quarters into a charity jar until one coin caught his eye. It looked different. The shine was off, the edge felt slightly thicker, and something about the design seemed just a bit unusual. He didn't know it then. But that quarter, minted in Philadelphia in 2004, carried a minting error so rare, it would send shockwaves through the coin-collecting world. You see, the Texas quarter was part of the famous 50 state quarters program, released between 1999 and 2008. Millions were minted. They were meant to be common, a symbol of every state's pride. But every once in a while, something goes wrong inside the U.S. Mint. A die gets misaligned, a planchet gets struck twice, or an off-metal blank slips through unnoticed. And that's when ordinary coins become legendary. But this particular Texas quarter had something that shouldn't exist, a double strike with a rotated die, perfectly centered on one side and off by just enough to make collectors lose their minds. When news of the discovery hit collector circles, people couldn't believe it. How could a simple 2004 P quarter, a coin anyone could have had in their pocket, end up commanding a price of over $1 million? The collector, who had no formal training in numismatics, decided to have the coin authenticated. He sent it to PCGS, one of the top grading services in the country. Weeks passed. Then, one morning, he got the call. The grader on the other end said, "Sir, are you sitting down?" They confirmed it. It wasn't just an error coin. It was one of the cleanest double strike rotations ever recorded on a modern state quarter. The surfaces were flawless, the details sharp, and the strike pattern perfectly misaligned in a way that could never be replicated intentionally. When the coin finally went up for auction, the bid skyrocketed. Collectors from around the world joined in. Dealers whispered in disbelief. And when the hammer finally dropped, it sold for nearly $1.7 million. All from a coin that once jingled in someone's pocket like spare change. Experts believe that several more of these rare Texas quarters could still be out there, possibly sitting in jars, glove compartments, or old coin rolls that haven't been checked in decades. And that's why collectors are going crazy, because the next discovery could come from anyone, anywhere. First, the mint mark. You're searching for the 2004 P Texas quarter, meaning it was struck in Philadelphia. Flip it over and look at the reverse. The design shows the outline of Texas with a single large star and a rope border. But here's where the magic happens. Look for doubling, especially around the word Texas, the star points, or the edge of the state outline. If you notice letters that look thicker or almost like they've been shadowed or stamped twice, your heart might just skip a beat. Then, check the rim. A true error example often shows a slight rotation or misalignment, where one side seems just off-center from the other. It's subtle, but unmistakable once you know what to look for. Collectors have also reported rare off-metal strikes, meaning some Texas quarters were mistakenly pressed on the wrong type of blank, such as one intended for nickels or even foreign coins. These are worth an astronomical amount because they're not supposed to exist at all. But here's the kicker. Not every coin with marks or discoloration is valuable. Many people get fooled by normal wear, machine doubling, or post-mint damage. That's why the most important step is authentication. If you believe your coin looks odd, send it to a professional grading company like PCGS or NGC. They have the tools to confirm whether it's a true mint error or just wishful thinking. Some Texas quarters struck early in 2004 were made with prototype dies, test pieces used before final designs were approved. These coins can have sharper details, missing fields, or slightly different lettering thickness. A prototype strike with an error? That's the kind of combination that sends auction prices into the stratosphere. Well, after selling his coin, he didn't just take the money and vanish. He used part of his fortune to start a small coin education fund in his community, helping young people learn how to spot hidden treasures in everyday life. He said in an interview, "That coin changed my life, not just because of the money, but because it reminded me that luck favors those who pay attention." And he's right, because every day, millions of quarters pass through our hands. We use them for parking meters, vending machines, or tips at the diner, without a second thought. But hidden among them could be a small, gleaming time capsule worth a fortune. Just think about it. You might have already held a coin like this and never realized it. And yet, the true treasures, the ones that could change someone's life, are still out there. But this story doesn't just end with one lucky man. Another collector in 2019 reportedly found a Texas quarter with what's known as a broad strike error, where the coin was struck without a collar, causing the edges to spread wider than normal. Though not as dramatic as the original $1 million piece, it still fetched over $15,000, proving that even smaller variations can be worth serious money. So, if you've got a jar of quarters lying around, tonight might be the night to go treasure hunting. Look for that 2004 mint mark. Inspect the edges, the lettering, and the shine. You're not just looking at pocket change, you could be holding history. The Texas quarters design, with that lone star and outline, represents strength and independence, the same spirit that drives collectors to chase the impossible. There's something poetic about that, because in the end, it's not just about the metal. It's about the story, the chance, the hope that something ordinary can become extraordinary. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle, and yours could too. So before you spend that next quarter on a soda or parking meter, take a second look. Turn it in your hand. Notice the details, because one of those details, one small, overlooked imperfection, could be the difference between spare change and a life-changing discovery. Collectors were shocked, dealers were speechless, and one man's fate was changed forever, all because he looked twice. Imagine this. A man cleaning out his old pickup truck finds a dusty quarter wedged between the seat and the console. He's seconds away from tossing it into a parking meter, until something about it catches his eye. That simple hesitation changes his life forever, because that forgotten coin wasn't just pocket change. It was a 2013 Great Basin quarter worth up to $1.8 million. Now, I know that sounds unbelievable. A quarter worth more than a mansion. But what if I told you this coin has a backstory so wild, so mysterious, that even seasoned collectors couldn't believe it when it surfaced? Stay with me, because by the end of this story, you'll know exactly how to spot one of these rare treasures hiding in plain sight. It all started in 2013, when the U.S. Mint released the Great Basin National Park quarter, part of the America the Beautiful series. On the surface, it looked ordinary. The design showed that twisted, ancient bristlecone pine tree, one of the oldest living things on Earth. But what no one realized then was that a handful of these coins came out of the Denver Mint with a shocking minting error. Some say it was a mechanical glitch. Others whisper that it was a rush die replacement during production. But whatever the cause, It created a handful of Great Basin quarters with a striking defect, a doubling in the design so subtle, you could miss it unless you looked at just the right angle. And that tiny, almost invisible flaw is what turned an everyday 25 cents into $1 million miracle. A few years later, one of these error coins appeared in the hands of a Nevada collector, a man who had been combing through rolls of quarters for decades. He said he found it in change from a gas station in Ely, Nevada. At first, he thought it was just another modern quarter, until he noticed something strange. The roots of the bristlecone tree looked thicker, almost doubled. The texture on the trunk shimmered differently in the light. He put it under magnification, and his heart nearly stopped. He'd found a true double die error, confirmed later by experts as one of the rarest minting accidents in the 2013 series. When it went to auction, collectors went wild. Bidding wars broke out. Dealers fought for ownership, and the final hammer price? Just under $1.8 million. But here's the twist. No one knows exactly how many of these error coins exist. The mint never confirmed the exact number, and rumors swirl that only a handful ever escaped into circulation before the dies were replaced. Some experts believe fewer than 10 exist. Others say maybe only 3. And that's what makes this coin such a mysterious treasure. After the news of that auction spread, collectors across the country began raiding their jars of quarters. Bank tellers noticed people requesting $500 boxes just to search through them. Suddenly, everyone wanted to find the next $1 million Great Basin quarter. Stories popped up from California, Utah, and Oregon, each one claiming to have found something different about their quarters. Some were genuine die clashes. Others were machine doubling. But 1 or 2, those still haven't been authenticated. And that means they might still be out there. Now, before you grab your flashlight and magnifier, let me tell you exactly what to look for, because these details are what separate a life-changing find from an ordinary coin. First, make sure your coin has the D mint mark, located just below "In God We Trust" on the obverse or front of the coin. That D stands for the Denver Mint, where these rare errors were born. Next, flip the coin to the reverse side, the one with the tree. Look closely at the trunk and the lower branches. In the rare $1 million version, you'll notice what looks like a shadowy outline, almost as if the bark or roots were printed twice. This is what collectors call true doubling, where the die strikes the metal twice at a slightly shifted angle. It gives parts of the image a ghostly, layered appearance. Now here's where many people get fooled. Machine doubling, which is caused by loose equipment, can make the coin look doubled, but the lines are flat and shelf-like. True double die errors have rounded, raised edges, almost like the design was sculpted twice. That's the $1 million detail right there. Some of these Great Basin quarters also show what's known as a cud error, where a small chunk of the die broke off, leaving a blob-like mark along the rim of the coin. These cuds add even more value, especially when paired with the doubling. Collectors were stunned when a second example surfaced in 2019, found not by a professional, but by a retired postal worker in Idaho who'd been saving state quarters for years. His coin showed a faint doubling on the pine tree's lower trunk, and a minor die crack stretching across the word Nevada. When that coin was verified, offers started flooding in. He sold it privately for nearly $800,000. 0.1 man's pocket change became a near $1 million miracle. And that's why every serious collector, every dreamer with a jar of coins by the bed, is still searching. Because lightning struck twice, and when that happens in numismatics, there's almost always a third. But what makes the 2013 D Great Basin quarter so emotionally powerful isn't just the price tag. It's what it represents. Proof that hidden value can still exist in the most ordinary things. In a world where everything feels digital, disposable, and predictable, a small metal coin reminds us that discovery is still possible. That treasure can still hide in plain sight. And maybe that's why collectors call it the Tree of Fortune. Because, just like that ancient bristlecone pine clinging to life for thousands of years, these coins survived against all odds, overlooked, unnoticed, and nearly forgotten. Until someone with curiosity and patience decided to look closer. So tonight, when you empty your pockets or count your change, take 1 extra second. Look for that D mint mark. Study the details of that twisted tree. You never know what might be staring back at you. But when a collector spotted a faint shimmer along its rim, everything changed. That same 2006 North Dakota quarter, with a tiny P mint mark, would go on to be valued at nearly $1.9 million. You heard that right. A simple state quarter, something most people use to buy a coffee, turned into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. And tonight, we're diving deep into the mystery behind the 2006 P North Dakota quarter, a coin that's making collectors across America dig through their change like treasure hunters chasing gold. Because this isn't just another collectible. This coin carries a secret, one so rare, so bizarre, that even professional graders were left speechless the first time they saw it. Back in 2006, the U.S. Mint was riding high on the success of the state quarters program. Millions of people were collecting, trading, and saving coins from every new design, from Delaware to Colorado. When the North Dakota quarter was released, featuring the iconic image of two American bison grazing under an open sky, it was hailed as one of the most beautiful quarters ever made. Collectors loved the detail, the wind-swept prairie grass, the sharpness of the bison's horns, the smooth horizon. But buried among the millions of perfect strikes, a few coins rolled off the presses that were anything but normal at first glance. These quarters looked like any other. But when tilted under light, a strange shimmer caught the eye, as if the metal itself was hiding a secret. And then one collector, sorting through a bag of mixed quarters from a local bank in Fargo, noticed something unbelievable. The edge of one coin was slightly misaligned. The P mint mark, usually crisp and perfect, was doubled, faintly shadowed, almost ghost-like. This wasn't just any error coin. What he had discovered was one of the rarest double-die North Dakota quarters ever struck at the Philadelphia Mint. That a mechanical slip during production had caused a dual impression. The design was pressed twice, slightly offset. That meant every detail, from the bison's outline to the inscriptions, showed the faintest doubling. The doubling was so subtle, so precise, that most people never noticed it. They spent it, tossed it, lost it. Millions of potential treasures vanished into circulation. Yet, this one coin, this single survivor, became the holy grail of 2006 quarters. When it hit the auction block, dealers whispered. Collectors gasped. The bids climbed higher and higher. $100, $000, $300, $000. And then, in a stunning twist, the hammer fell just shy of $1.9 million. And just like that, the 2006 P North Dakota quarter went from pocket change to legend. Collectors across the country began raiding their old jars, scouring every quarter they'd ever saved. Dealers were overwhelmed. The mint stayed silent. And the more people searched, the more rumors spread about shadowy strikes, partial errors, and hidden varieties that might still be out there. One story even tells of a retired schoolteacher in Ohio who found a North Dakota quarter with a faint die crack across the bison's neck. It wasn't as dramatic as the double die version, but it still fetched over $30,000 at a private sale. Imagine that. One coin, one lucky find, and suddenly your retirement looks a whole lot better. First, find that 2006 North Dakota quarter. Look for the P mint mark, meaning it was struck in Philadelphia. Then tilt it under a strong light. Focus on the words North Dakota and 2006. Do the letters appear slightly shadowed or blurred? That could be a sign of a double die obverse, the kind that made one man nearly $2 million richer. Now, flip it over. On the reverse, check the bison's legs and the prairie grass beneath them. Any doubling, faint outlines, or ghost-like edges could mean you're holding something extraordinary. If you see even a hairline shift or flattening near the rim, it could indicate a misaligned die strike. Another rare error that's been linked to the 2006 North Dakota quarter. Collectors were shocked to find that many of these coins were released in everyday rolls from banks and stores across the Midwest. Which means your coin jar, your glove box, even that forgotten change cup in your kitchen might be hiding a piece of American history. It's not just about the doubling or the mint mark. It's about condition. The 2006 P North Dakota quarter that sold for nearly $2 million was in pristine, uncirculated condition, graded MS 68. That level of perfection is almost impossible to find in circulation. But not completely impossible, because every year, one or two new examples surface, found by people just like you. People who took an extra second to look closer. People who refuse to believe their change was just change. Dealers are still paying huge money for these high-grade error coins. And even a slightly circulated example can fetch thousands. So next time you're handed a North Dakota quarter, pause. Hold it up. Look at it closely. Because the next millionaire story might start in your hands. And here's the part that always gives me chills. The man who discovered that original 2006 P error coin said he almost didn't check that roll of quarters. He was tired, it was late, and he nearly left it for another day. But something told him to look, just one more roll. That one decision changed his life forever. So maybe that's a lesson for all of us. Treasure doesn't always come in gold bars or hidden chests. Sometimes it jingles quietly in your pocket, waiting for the right eyes to see it. And maybe, just maybe, the next time you empty your change onto the counter, you'll spot it. That faint shimmer, that doubled edge, that P mint mark from 2006, and realize you're holding a $1.9 million miracle. But I'm talking about the 1965 no mint mark Washington quarter, a coin that looks so ordinary, most people wouldn't give it a second glance. Yet behind that simple silver gray shine lies one of the most dramatic and mysterious stories in U.S. coin history. Back in 1965, the United States was in the middle of a coin crisis. Silver prices were skyrocketing, people were hoarding coins, and the U.S. Mint was scrambling to keep change in circulation. To stop the chaos, the Mint made a bold move. They removed all mint marks and changed the metal composition from 90% silver to a copper-nickel blend. That decision created confusion, mistakes, and one of the most valuable quarters ever struck. The 1965 no mint mark Washington quarter that's now worth up to $1 million. But here's where the story turns wild. You see, while the mint was supposed to switch entirely to the new copper-nickel coins, a few leftover silver planchets, blank pieces meant for the old 1964 quarters, somehow slipped through the system. They were accidentally struck with 1965 dies. And just like that, a handful of silver 1965 quarters were born, hiding among billions of ordinary coins. For years, nobody knew they existed. People spent them on gas, candy, and coffee. They jingled in pockets, passed through vending machines, and vanished into circulation. Until one man's curiosity changed everything. It was the late 1970s when a collector in California noticed something odd about a 1965 quarter he found in a roll from the bank. It looked different, shinier. He weighed it, and the scale showed something incredible. Instead of the expected 5.67 grams for a copper-nickel coin, his quarter weighed 6.25 grams, the same as the old 90% silver quarters. He sent it off for testing. The results confirmed it. A genuine 1965 Washington quarter struck on a silver planchet. A minting error so rare, it defied logic. News spread fast. Collectors were stunned. Dealers rushed to check their inventories. And soon, the hunt for the silver 1965 quarter began. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Another one surfaced, then another, each one in near-perfect condition, each with that mysterious no mint mark, each telling the story of a mint in chaos and a nation on edge. The value skyrocketed. One example eventually went to auction, fetching hundreds of thousands of dollars. Experts say the finest known piece, flawless, gleaming, with crisp detail, could easily fetch up to $1 million today. No one knows how many are still out there. Some estimates say maybe a dozen. Others whisper there could be more, lost in old jars, forgotten in collections, or sitting right now in someone's change drawer, waiting to be rediscovered. You dump out your change, expecting nothing special, and there it is. A slightly heavier, slightly shinier 1965 quarter that could change your life forever. Collectors describe it as the holy grail of transitional errors, coins struck on the wrong metal during the shift from silver to copper-nickel. These mistakes happen so rarely and so secretly that every example tells a story of pure accident and luck. But what makes it even more mysterious is how deliberate it almost feels. Some insiders believe a few mint workers intentionally used leftover silver blanks to test the new equipment, never realizing those test strikes would escape into circulation. If that's true, this coin isn't just rare. It's a time capsule from one of the most dramatic chapters in modern coin history. Now, before you rush to your coin jar, here's what to look for. A genuine 1965 silver quarter will weigh about 6.25 grams, while the common copper-nickel version weighs only 5.67. You can also check the coin's edge. Silver quarters have a solid, white metal edge with no visible copper layer. Hold it under good light. If you see a brown or reddish streak along the edge, it's the regular version. But if it's solid silver all around, you might be holding something worth a fortune. But there's another twist. Some counterfeiters try to alter regular 1965 quarters by plating them or shaving off copper edges. That's why professional grading and authentication are crucial. Reputable companies like PCGS or NGC can verify the metal composition and confirm whether it's the real deal. And here's a secret even some dealers miss. A few experimental 1965 quarters were struck with older 1964 dies. If you ever notice sharper details or slightly different font thickness on Liberty or In God We Trust, pay attention. That tiny difference could be worth hundreds of thousands more. But let's go back to the story, because this coin didn't just make collectors rich. It changed how the mint handled errors forever. After these discoveries, the mint tightened controls, introduced new metal testing systems, and destroyed leftover silver planchets. It was the end of an era and the beginning of modern coin collecting as we know it. Collectors who found one describe it as life-changing. One man said he'd been searching through rolls for decades, hoping for just a glimpse of something rare. When he saw that silver shine in a roll of dull gray quarters, he said his hands were shaking. He couldn't believe it, a million-dollar miracle hiding in plain sight. But this story isn't just about luck. It's about persistence, passion, and paying attention to what others overlook. Every great discovery starts with someone curious enough to look twice. And here's the truth. This exact coin could still be out there. Maybe in a coin jar on your kitchen counter, maybe tucked in an old sock drawer, maybe rattling around in a vending machine somewhere. Nobody knows for sure. But someone, somewhere, is going to find another one. Because history has a funny way of hiding treasures in plain sight. And sometimes, the next great discovery doesn't happen in a museum. It happens in your own pocket. So the next time you get a 1965 quarter, don't just toss it aside. Check the weight. Look at the edge. Listen to that clear ring of silver when you drop it on a table. That sound has made collectors gasp, because it's the sound of history, luck, and $1 million all at once. Every coin has a story, but this one is a legend. A coin born in chaos, lost in circulation, and rediscovered decades later to shock the world. Collectors still whisper about it. Dealers still dream of it. And maybe, just maybe, it's waiting for you. A simple 1979 D Washington quarter, the kind that jingled in lunch money, parking meters, and soda machines. But one of these coins wasn't ordinary at all. One of them turned out to be worth over $1.1 million, but it's hard to believe, right? A coin from 1979, the same year disco was dying and the Walkman was born, now changing someone's life forever. But that's exactly what happened. A single Washington quarter, minted in Denver, quietly became one of the most sought-after treasures in U.S. coin history. The story begins with a man named Robert, a lifelong coin collector from Kansas. He'd been searching for rare errors since his teens, but this one, he found completely by accident. One night, while rolling his spare change, he noticed something odd, a 1979 D quarter that just looked different. The shine wasn't right, the strike looked deeper, and the details on Washington's face seemed unusually sharp. It was a coin that felt alive. He almost tossed it back in the pile. Almost, but something told him to take a closer look. He pulled out his magnifier and froze. The D mint mark below Washington's hairline wasn't normal. It was struck slightly higher and deeper than usual. Even stranger, the coin's edges revealed traces of what looked like a double rim, a subtle, almost ghostly outline around its border. Collectors later called it the double rim high D quarter, but back then, Robert didn't know what he had. He brought it to a local dealer, who nearly fell off his chair when he saw it under the light. "You might want to sit down," the dealer whispered. "This isn't just an error coin. This could be a once-in-a-lifetime find." The coin was authenticated and later auctioned. And when the final hammer dropped, the room erupted. It sold for over $1.1 million. That's right. A single 1979 D Washington quarter that almost ended up in a grocery store till became a millionaire dash maker. To understand that. We have to go back to the Denver Mint in 1979, a year of transition. The Mint was upgrading its machinery, and during that change, a few dies were accidentally misaligned. Some planchets, the blank discs used to make coins, were struck multiple times or with incorrect die pressure. This created double die obverse, partial collar strikes, and off-center details. Most of those error coins were caught and melted, but a handful slipped through, and one of them was Robert's. Now here's where the story gets even wilder. Experts later confirmed that this particular quarter had a rare double die on the obverse. Washington's profile shows subtle doubling around his eye and nose, and the word Liberty looks ever so slightly shadowed. The D mint mark placement, combined with the doubling and pristine strike, made this coin essentially one of a kind. When the coin was examined under high magnification, specialists found traces of a transitional metal mix, a faint copper-nickel inconsistency that shouldn't exist on a 1979 D quarter. Some believe it was struck on a leftover 40% silver planchet, a remnant from the 1976 bicentennial coin run. If true, that would explain the coin's unique luster and weight. This detail alone sent shockwaves through the coin community. Dealers were stunned. Collectors scrambled to recheck their 1979 quarters, hoping lightning might strike twice. Imagine how many 1979 D quarters passed through gas stations, vending machines, and kids' piggy banks, carrying secrets worth a fortune. The thought alone gave collectors chills. And yet, this story has another twist. After the $1 million sale made headlines, a second mysterious 1979 D quarter appeared on an online auction site. The seller claimed it had the same high D mint mark and doubled rim. Photos showed a similar shine, but the coin wasn't certified. Within hours, bidding shot up past $50,000. But then, the listing vanished. Some say it was pulled after experts suspected foul play. Others whisper that it was quietly sold off the record to a private collector for a massive, undisclosed amount. No one knows for sure. The 1979 D Washington quarter has become one of the most hunted coins in circulation today. First, check the mint mark. It should be a clear D slightly higher than normal, almost touching the lower curls of Washington's hair. Under magnification, it may appear thicker or more deeply impressed than surrounding details. Second, inspect the rim. Look for doubling or a faint second outline, a sign of a slightly misaligned die. It's subtle but visible under good lighting. Third, examine the word Liberty and the date, 1979. If the letters or numbers show even a hint of doubling or shadowing, you may be holding a valuable error. Finally, pay attention to the coin's color and weight. Most 1979 quarters are clad in copper nickel, but a few extremely rare ones were struck on silver planchets by mistake. These will appear slightly brighter, with a softer ring when dropped and a different reading on a digital scale, about 5.75 grams instead of the usual 5.67. That if your coin matches these clues, get it authenticated by PCGS or NGC immediately. But here's the emotional truth behind it all. This isn't just about money. It's about discovery. It's about holding a piece of American history that almost vanished. About realizing that something worth $1 million could be hiding in your spare change, waiting for someone curious enough to notice. Collectors say this coin changed the way they look at quarters forever. Every jingle in a pocket, every old jar of coins, suddenly feels like a mystery waiting to be solved. So next time you get a handful of change, don't just toss it aside. Look closer. Feel the texture. Check that date. Examine that mint mark. Because one simple quarter, one 1979 D Washington quarter, turned a quiet night of coin rolling into a $1 million miracle. But when it finally resurfaced decades later, it didn't just make history. It made someone a millionaire. I'm talking about the 1776 to 1976 D bicentennial Washington quarter, one of the most mysterious and valuable modern coins ever discovered. And some of these have sold for over $1.2 million. It all began with a celebration, the 200th anniversary of the United States. The Mint wanted to honor America's birthday with something special, a redesigned quarter. Out went the usual eagle on the back, and in came the image of a colonial drummer, the spirit of the revolution itself. It was beautiful, patriotic, and unforgettable. But hidden among the millions struck at the Denver Mint, a handful were born different, almost by accident. These rare bicentennial quarters carried subtle flaws, strange surfaces, and minting secrets no one noticed back in 1976. The mint was pushing out so many of them that small mistakes slipped through, errors that today can mean the difference between 25 cents and a fortune. A collector from Colorado, an ordinary man who'd been going through his late father's coin collection, stumbled upon a bicentennial quarter with the Denver D mint mark that just looked off. The metal shimmered differently. The strike seemed sharper. The edges didn't match the others. He almost spent it at a gas station before something told him to hang on to it. Months later, after showing it to a local dealer, that same coin went to auction, and when the hammer fell, it brought in over $1 million. Dealers were shocked. How could a coin millions of people held in their hands every day suddenly be worth more than a house? The answer lay in the tiniest of details, details that most people never notice. You see, some of these 1776 to 1976 D quarters were struck on the wrong planchet, meaning the wrong type of metal blank. Instead of the standard copper-nickel composition, a few were accidentally struck on silver planchets left over from earlier production runs. The difference? Barely noticeable to the untrained eye, but under the right light, the coin's surface gives off a pale, mirror-like tone that sets it apart. Collectors began scouring their change. Banks were flooded with requests for bicentennial rolls. Everyone wanted to find one. The story of the $1 million drummer boy quarter spread like wildfire across collector forums and YouTube videos. Some even claimed to find new varieties, double strikes, off-centers, or die errors showing ghost-like outlines behind the drummer. But a retired mint employee revealed that during the rush of bicentennial production, certain presses at the Denver facility were adjusted incorrectly. The result? Some coins were struck slightly off-center or with higher pressure, creating raised details and thicker rims. Many of these were quietly destroyed, but a few escaped into circulation, and those survivors are now some of the most valuable quarters in U.S. history. And here's where it gets spine-tingling. One collector in Texas found his by complete accident. He'd been using an old coffee tin as a change jar for decades. One morning, while rolling coins to take to the bank, he spotted a bicentennial quarter that looked brighter than the rest. Something about it glowed differently. Out of curiosity, he tested it with a magnet. Nothing. Silver isn't magnetic. He took it to a dealer, who confirmed it. A genuine 1776 to 1976 D struck on a 40% silver planchet. That coin later sold for $1.2 million. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle. But what makes this story even more unbelievable is that these coins are still out there. They weren't limited to collectors. The Denver Mint released millions into general circulation. That means one of these ultra-rare quarters could be sitting in a cup holder, a coin jar, or even inside your wallet right now. 1776 to 1976, and the small D, mint mark just to the right of Washington's ponytail. The design features a colonial drummer on the reverse, with a victory torch surrounded by 13 stars. But pay attention to the metal. A genuine rare variety often has a lighter, silvery appearance and a faintly different ring when dropped. If it's struck on a silver planchet, it will weigh slightly more, around 5.75 grams instead of the normal 5.67. That tiny difference can mean the world. Another telltale sign is the edge. Normal bicentennial quarters have a distinct copper stripe along the edge. That's the copper-nickel sandwich. But if your coin's edge looks solid silver, with no copper showing, you could be holding one of the rare ones. And here's the twist most collectors don't expect. Some valuable errors aren't about the metal at all. A few D-mint quarters show doubling on the drummer's drumsticks or the E pluribus unum inscription. Others have a faint misalignment that causes part of the design to look shadowed or ghosted. Even tiny variations in strike pressure can make a difference of thousands of dollars. But this story isn't just about metal or minting. It's about fate. About ordinary people discovering extraordinary treasures when they least expect it. About the thrill of realizing something you've overlooked for years could change your life. Imagine the feeling, flipping through your change, spotting that familiar colonial drummer, and realizing you might be holding one of the rarest quarters ever made. The kind that makes collectors' hearts race. The kind that dealers will pay anything for. The kind that transforms 25 cents into a piece of American history worth more than $1 million. Every time a new bicentennial quarter is found with one of these rare traits, it reignites the dream. It proves that the treasures of our past aren't locked in museums. They're hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone with curiosity and a bit of luck to uncover them. And that's the real magic of collecting. It's not just about profit, it's about discovery, about connecting to the hands of history, about realizing that even a simple coin can hold the story of a nation, a moment, and a miracle. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, don't ignore those quarters. Look closely at the date. Feel the weight. Check the edge. You might just find that your next handful of change is worth far more than you could ever imagine. The 2016 Fort Moultrie quarter dollar, a coin most people have spent without a second thought, has stunned the collecting world, with one rare example selling for nearly $1.3 million that it's hard to believe that something so ordinary could hide such extraordinary value. But that's the magic of rare mint errors. They can turn pocket change into a fortune. And the story behind this coin is one that no collector saw coming. It all began quietly in late 2016 when the U.S. Mint released the Fort Moultrie National Monument Quarter as part of the America the Beautiful series. It was supposed to be just another design in the lineup, a tribute to the defenders of Fort Moultrie in South Carolina, showing Sergeant William Jasper heroically raising the flag under fire. But among those millions of quarters, something went terribly, or perhaps miraculously, wrong. A handful of coins left the Philadelphia Mint with a rare and nearly invisible flaw. To the untrained eye, it looked normal. But to those who knew where to look, the difference was staggering. The metal composition and strike pattern didn't match standard minting specifications. Experts believe that during production, a small batch was struck with improperly prepared dies, causing subtle doubling in the inscriptions and an unusual metallic shimmer under magnification. At first, nobody noticed. These coins slipped into circulation, into vending machines, cash registers, and maybe even your change jar right now. But then, one lucky collector from Pennsylvania found something strange in his pocket. He noticed the quarter felt slightly different, lighter, smoother, almost as if it had been polished. When he tilted it under the light, the P mint mark seemed doubled, and the details on the flag appeared slightly blurred, almost ghost-like. He took it to a local coin shop, expecting maybe $5 or $10 for the curiosity. But when the dealer examined it under a microscope, his face went pale. He called in another expert, then another. What they found sent shockwaves through the numismatic world. This wasn't just a misstrike. It was a multi-layered minting anomaly, a coin that somehow fused two production errors in one. The die was misaligned, but also the planchet, the blank piece of metal, appeared to have been improperly annealed, giving the coin a unique luster no other example had. Collectors call it a compound error, and it's one of the rarest things you can find on modern U.S. coinage. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The collector decided to auction it through Heritage Auctions. Experts verified its authenticity, and when the bidding started, it skyrocketed past expectations. 10,000, 50,000, 100,000. By the end, the hammer dropped at a jaw-dropping $1.3 million. Collectors were speechless. Dealers couldn't believe it. A 25-cent coin, struck less than a decade ago, had just made someone a millionaire overnight. And as word spread, people began frantically digging through their change, searching for any Fort Moultrie quarter that looked even slightly unusual. But here's the twist. Not all valuable Fort Moultrie quarters look the same. Some of the known error examples show a subtle double die effect on the word liberty or e pluribus unum. Others show what collectors call a struck through grease error, where parts of the design look faded or missing due to mint debris during the strike. These coins can fetch thousands, and in pristine, uncirculated condition, the right combination of flaws can reach 6 or even 7 figures. Still, this discovery didn't just change one man's life. It changed how collectors look at modern quarters entirely. For years, people thought only older coins carried million-dollar potential. But the Fort Moultrie quarter proved otherwise. Modern mint errors can be just as valuable, sometimes even more, than classic rarities from the 1800s. And it's not just luck. It's about knowledge, knowing what to look for, having the patience to examine coins others overlook. One man's pocket change became a million-dollar miracle because he took the time to look closer. You walk into a coffee shop, pay for your drink, and the cashier hands you back a shiny quarter. You glance at it, maybe notice the design, maybe not. It jingles in your pocket all day until you drop it in a jar on your dresser. Months later, while watching a video about rare coins, you realize that same coin might be worth more than your car. That's how close everyday people have come to holding this kind of treasure without even realizing it. Start with the mint mark. You want the P for Philadelphia, located just above the date. Check the lettering carefully. Look at Liberty and E pluribus unum. If you notice any doubling, that faint shadow effect behind the letters, you could be onto something big. Next, check the texture. The normal quarters have a uniform shine, but these rare ones often have a strange, satin-like surface. It almost looks like the coin has been gently brushed. Under magnification, the details in the flag and Sergeant Jasper's uniform might appear slightly distorted or rippled. Also, pay attention to the rim. Some error coins have a thinner or uneven edge, sometimes caused by off-center striking. These minor details are what separate a regular 25-cent piece from a life-changing discovery. Never clean the coin. Cleaning removes natural toning and can destroy thousands of dollars in value instantly. If you find one that seems suspiciously unique, store it in a plastic flip or capsule and get it authenticated by PCGS or NGC. Only then will you know if you've got the real deal. The kind of coin that could rewrite your financial story. One collector once said, "Coins like these are lightning in a bottle. They happen once in a generation." He's right. The odds of finding a mint error this significant are almost impossible, yet someone did. And that means someone else could, too. The Fort Moultrie quarter isn't just a coin. It's a reminder that treasures still hide in plain sight. That even in our digital, cashless world, history and fortune can still be found in the smallest corners of our daily lives. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, don't overlook that quarter. Hold it up to the light. Inspect the date. Check that mint mark. Because somewhere out there, sitting quietly in someone's change jar or drawer, is another 2016 Fort Moultrie quarter. And the next one could be worth $1.3 million.